Okay, guys, and welcome back to English with Phil Norris. I hope you're having a great week. I hope your English learning is going exceptionally well. I hope you're doing great. Please, if you have any questions for me, comment down below. Starting this week, I'm going to continue doing my word and then a phrase or an idiom lessons, because I think that these are probably the easiest for me to make right now. But I will start doing a wide variety of lessons in the future. I'm still working on designing those and then coming up with how I'm going to schedule those lessons in the future. But for right now, I just want to continue teaching and put as much content and video content out there as possible. So last week's video was really long. It was 17 minutes. It takes forever for me to upload those videos to YouTube. So I'm going to try to keep this video as short and concise as possible. So if I move too quickly, let me know and I will slow my video or slow my speaking down. But if you like the video, please like this video, and then actually like this video, click the thumbs up, and then subscribe because I will be creating more and more lessons in the future. So let's get into our lesson for today. Our word for today is right over here. There we go, perfect. Prohibit. So prohibit, say it out loud with me. To prohibit or prohibit. So P-R-O-H-I-B-I-T. P-R-O-H-I-B-I-T. Prohibit. So if you prohibit or something's prohibited or someone's prohibited, it means that it's not allowed. So a certain activity is not permitted, or a certain activity is oftentimes illegal if it is prohibited. For example, smoking. I know in some countries, in a lot of countries, smoking is very popular outside of the United States. But in the United States, smoking is a taboo a little bit. By taboo, I mean it is not very well liked. It might be something socially people don't like. And back about 10, 15 years ago, you could smoke in restaurants in the United States. Back even farther than that, you could smoke on planes. And you could smoke in pretty much anywhere. But now, smoking is prohibited inside almost every building in the United States. Inside of planes, smoking is prohibited, but it is also illegal. So it is super prohibited. You can get arrested for smoking on a plane. So if something's prohibited, it means it's not allowed, that activity is not permitted. It is illegal. Another example of something you might see in the United States is if you're in a park, for example. So parks have trees, grass. It's fun to play in parks. People go to parks to have picnics, to throw frisbees or footballs or baseballs. They go to have fun. But in a lot of parks, you might see an area where they're working on the grass. They're trying to get the grass to grow. And you'll see a sign that says, walking on this grass is prohibited. It means walking on that grass is not allowed. Or they don't want you to walk on that grass. That activity of walking is not allowed. So it's prohibited. So again, using it this way, it's a verb. So something I wanted to talk about today in a part of United States culture that is often talked about was from the time period of 1920 to 1933. We call that prohibition. We call it prohibition. And why we call it prohibition is because alcohol was illegal. It was prohibited during that time period. We call it prohibition. When we say prohibition, alcohol was illegal during that time period. They made it illegal to reduce on crime and corruption, to solve a lot of social problems we're having in the United States, and then to reduce the tax burden. So we pay a lot of money each year to keep jails, to keep people in jails and to keep jails running. So we American citizens are taxed to pay for criminals in the jail system, and then we are also taxed back then to pay for poorhouses. And the reason why they made alcohol legal is because oftentimes alcohol and alcohol consumption, especially in excess, which means alcohol consumed, or if someone consumes alcohol way too much, to consume alcohol in excess, oftentimes when people consume alcohol, they commit crimes. If you commit crimes, it's kind of this repeating wheel of you commit crimes, you go to jail, then you get out of jail, you drink alcohol, you commit another crime, you get thrown back into jail. So also people who are alcoholics have trouble keeping a job. They have trouble maintaining a job because they're drinking all the time and they rely on alcohol. So they'll end up in poorhouses. And so by removing alcohol or making it illegal, they thought it would remove something that a lot of crime is linked to, that a lot of criminals oftentimes rely on, or a lot of criminals consume and then they commit more crimes, or something that's keeping people poor. Alcohol might keep people poor because they just rely on it, and they can't function in normal society. They can't get a job. They can't pay bills. They can't maintain relationships. So they made alcohol illegal during those years to see if it would help the United States economy, to see if it would help the U.S. in general. So that's why it's called Prohibition, because we made alcohol legal, which in the United States, alcohol is a big deal. We sell a lot of alcohol. We consume a lot of alcohol. Obviously, it only lasted 13 years. It didn't work that well. Even though alcohol was prohibited, even though alcohol was illegal, it wasn't allowed. People still sold it. My grandfather, actually, when he was a kid, would make this alcohol called moonshine. Moonshine, it's the nickname for it, which was an alcohol with a really high alcohol content level, that he would make at home and then sell it to bars and stores illegally. And this happened a lot. If you want to learn about Prohibition, go online and search it. You can find a lot of YouTube videos on Prohibition. It's a very interesting time period in American history. Also, a good movie about Prohibition would be the movie Lawless, Lawless, Lawless. It's right here. I'll put it right here. It has Tom Hardy, a famous actor, I believe British actor, Tom Hardy, and then Shia LaBeouf from the Transformers movies, but also a bunch of other good movies too. But it has both those actors in it and several others. And the movie's called Lawless. You can watch it and kind of see what that time period was like. But again, our word for today is prohibited, or to prohibit, which means to make something, or for something to be not allowed or something to be illegal. Another example, just to make sure you understand, is that let's say a perfect example is if someone isn't allowed back to an establishment or a building or a restaurant. Let's say someone did something to make the owner of a restaurant very mad. Maybe they were rude rude to a waitress or a waiter. Maybe they got too drunk and made a scene. Maybe they got in a fight. Or maybe they tried to run away from the restaurant without paying. We call this dine and dash. They dined, they ate food, and then they dashed, they ran without paying. So we call this dine and dash. So maybe they did this. So these are all things that would make the owner of the restaurant very upset. So the owner of the restaurant has the power to say, that person is prohibited from coming back to this restaurant. That means they are not allowed to come back to the restaurant. They're not allowed to step foot inside the restaurant. So this is a perfect example of what it means to prohibit. But you can prohibit somebody from doing something. You can prohibit an activity. So like smoking, you can prohibit smoking on your property, or you can prohibit smoking in your business. You can prohibit drinking in your business. You can prohibit about anything if you want to. You can prohibit, standing while someone's speaking at a wedding. There's all kinds of different things. But in the end, just remember, when something's prohibited, it means that activity is not allowed. Or when someone's prohibited from somewhere, that person's not allowed to come back. That person's not allowed to even be close to that restaurant. They're not allowed to step foot inside that restaurant. So then our phrase for today, moving on to our phrase, is red-handed. Red-handed. So red-handed comes from 15th century Scotland. So it means to be caught in the act of committing a crime. So if you're caught red-handed, it means you were caught doing something you weren't supposed to be doing. Caught doing something you weren't supposed to be doing. But where the phrase really came from is a little more serious. So if you're caught red-handed in 15th century Scotland, it meant that you were caught in the middle of committing a murder. And where it comes from is that you're caught with the person you just murdered's blood on your hands. So it means that you're caught red-handed. So you're caught with the actual blood of the person you murdered on your hands. So let's hope you're not committing murder, and I'm not committing murder. But if a murderer was caught with blood on their hands, they were caught red-handed back in 15th century Scotland. So that's where the term or the phrase came from. So nowadays, in the modern day, it's watered down. The meaning is watered down in the United States, which means it's not as serious. It just doesn't have to do with murder. You can be caught doing anything and be caught red-handed, as long as you're not supposed to be doing it. So an example of this would be my little cousins. I've got several cousins who love cookies. They love cookies. They want to eat cookies all day long. Well, if kids eat cookies all day long, it's really bad for them. They'll gain weight, they'll feel sick, they'll throw up. So I tell them, you can only have 2 cookies, and then you're prohibited from getting any more cookies. You're not allowed to get any more cookies out of the cookie jar. So I'll leave the room, I'll walk out of the room, and I'll hear them sneaking up, trying to climb up onto the counter or onto the table, opening the jar, reaching in, and trying to grab cookies. And I'll come back in when I hear this, and I'll catch them red-handed. I'll catch them in the middle of trying to steal cookies, doing something they're not allowed to do, something they're prohibited from doing when I'm around. Another example of being caught red-handed is when you're out at dinner with somebody. So this is another example, and I say this a lot, actually. So I'll be eating with my best friend, and we'll both order 2 different things. We'll order 2 different meals, and he might like my food more than he likes his own. So he might like what I ordered more than he likes what he ordered. So he'll ask me, "Hey Phil, can I take a bite of your food?" And I will say, "No, you eat your own food. I want to eat my food." And then in the middle of the meal, I'll have to go to the bathroom. So I'll get up and I'll say, "Hey, you're prohibited. Do not eat my food. You're not allowed to eat my food." And I'll leave to go to the bathroom, and I'll go to the bathroom and come back, and I'll catch him with his fork in my food and taking a bite. This means I'll run up and say, "Hey, I caught you red-handed. I caught you doing what I told you not to do." And so this is what it means to be caught red-handed. You can be caught red-handed stealing. You can be caught red-handed stealing money or stealing jewelry. You can be caught red-handed doing all kinds of different things you're not allowed to do. You can be caught red-handed cheating on a test. This is a no-no. Cheating is bad. Cheating is a big deal, especially in the United States. It can get you kicked out of school. It can get you kicked out of college. I'm sure it's the same way in other countries too. But to be caught red-handed means to be just caught doing something you're not supposed to be doing. You can be caught red-handed committing a crime. You can be caught red-handed, stealing food from your friend. That's not as serious. But you can be caught red-handed all the way up to committing murder. You could be caught in the middle of trying to hide a body, which is kind of dark and scary, but it's true. So why I chose this was because during the Prohibition days, back during the 1920s to 1933, when alcohol was illegal in the United States, people could get caught red-handed selling alcohol. They could get caught red-handed selling or making alcohol by the police. And then they could get arrested because they were doing something that was prohibited, something they were not allowed to do. So that's it for today's lesson. Remember, our word for the day was prohibit, or prohibited, or prohibiting. And then our phrase for the day is red-handed. So feel free to use these in your future English learning. If you catch your friend doing something they're not supposed to be doing, say, hey, I caught you red-handed. So for example, if they're eating your food, say, I caught you red-handed. Or if they're doing something you don't want them to do and you told them not to do it, tell them, hey, I caught you red-handed. Again, like and subscribe to my channel. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you want more English lessons. And feel free to comment down below any words you would like to learn, any types of lessons you would like to see me create in the future. And let me know if I'm speaking too quickly. I feel like sometimes I speak too quickly. And again, thank you for watching today's lesson. I will see you on the next English lesson with Phil Norris. Have a great day.